Welcome to the collection of the wildest and craziest AITA Reddit stories of all time. From wild betrayals to shocking twists, these tales will leave you questioning who is really in the wrong. Let's dive in together. The first story for this collection is from extension_olive_7891. My BL kicked me out of his house, just because he does feel secure while sleeping. AITA for not seeing my nieces because I'm gay. My sister, 34, Ali, and her husband, John, 36, have two daughters, 16 and 6. My nieces, who I adore and love with all my heart. When I was 25, I moved in with my sister and BIL while I attended college. It was short-lived, about 9 months, as they decided they wanted to sell their house. But while I was living there, things were great. I was able to help watch the girls while my sister and BIL worked. We would have movie nights, games, the whole works. I was the fun uncle. With my sister, we have always had a strong sibling bond. We had parents' family and supported each other through thick and thin. In fact, up until recent years, we had one fight that we both give each other shit about because it was the only time we've ever yelled at the other. After I moved out, found my way in life and college, I came out of the closet at 27. I was actually threatened to be outed to my sister, and that's how I came out, but that's a whole separate post. She was, of course, happy for me and wanted me to be my true self. She, of course, told my BIL. John and I actually used to be really close. Before I moved in with them, we would play video games nearly every night. We became bros, and honestly, it felt like I did have a brother in my life. That changed when I came out. John had told me he was, of course, supportive and loved me all the same. But around that same time, he started to bring up religion or going to church with my sister and nieces whenever I was with them. It was really odd because after knowing John for so long, he hadn't really ever brought up religion before. The clearest example I have was once my sister asked me if I was seeing any boys, and John immediately started talking about Sunday school and how he and Ali are teaching it now. I am not a religious person, but I went to church camp as a kid, so there's a place in my heart for what it can do. That's to say, I didn't care that John brought this up. If anything, it made me feel like my sexuality made him uncomfortable. About a year and a half ago, Ali, John, and a few other friends went out to celebrate Ali's birthday. At one point, it was just me and John at our table. John said to me, "Hey, I've been meaning to talk to you about something. It's been getting really tough to explain to the girls how they can still love you although you're going to hell. It's a lot emotionally for them." And I froze. I didn't even know what to say. I'm pretty sure I "Oh, okay," and someone came back to the table. It was a week later. I was watching my youngest niece, and she asked me what hell was like. It hurt so much, and who knows, maybe it wasn't John's doing that made her ask. But ever since I couldn't stop thinking about how every time I left their house, John sitting the girls down and explaining they can still love me, despite me burning in hell. So, I just emotionally withdrew. I love my nieces, but in my mind, it was easier for me to be around less so that John didn't have to explain to them how to love me. I still call and FaceTime on birthdays and holidays with other family present, but my overall presence in their life greatly diminished. Bringing us to today, I recently moved across the country to a larger city. Been super happy with life here after living in tiny Midwest towns my whole life. My sister and I still text every once in a while, and she reached out to me recently to ask about attending Christmas back home. When I said I wasn't planning on coming back for it, she blew up my phone saying I have been abandoning the girls and I'm just as shitty as the rest of our family for missing out on their lives, holidays. I replied, "Sorry, don't want John thinking I'm taking you and the girls to hell with me." She asked what that meant, and I explained what John had told me. Silence back. My mom texted me and asked what hell I did because I caused a huge fight with John and Ali. If anything, I feel I am an asshole for not being there for my nieces, but I do not feel bad for letting Ali know what John said and how it made me feel. AITA? Edit? Thank you all for the comments, seriously from the bottom of my heart. For a long time, I felt so much turmoil over this, and I worried about if what I was doing, even if best for me, was best for the girls. So, thank you again for your kind words and support. Bonus story. Amongst this same group of friends and my sister, John made the joke that I'm probably gay because I didn't have a manly presence in my life, like a father growing up. Ali didn't defend me, or even understand why I would be hurt by that joke at the time, so this also factored into emotions here. Also, I grew up on a cattle ranch farm, not really sure how to get any manlier than that. Edit 2. Sorry, the post keeps getting longer. When I made my first edit, there were quite a few comments and a little over 100 upvotes. Went to bed and work, and now, seeing all the supportive comments is overwhelming. In a good way. Thank you, thank you, thank you. For all the support and advice, you guys have no idea how much it means. I want to add some clarification. A common comment. Question is, why didn't I talk to Ali about this when it happened? When I came out, I lost nearly all my friends. Didn't have much family to lose, but they didn't stick around either. And the thought of essentially having to ask Ali to choose between John and me, and in my mind, me being gay, felt similar to all the other people I'd known in my life that chose their beliefs over me being me. Not being as present, while still communicating with the girls, was what I thought was the compromise of appeasing John while still being able to have a line of communication with them. I honestly don't care what John thinks of me. I know I'm not going to hell, and if I am, it's not because I'm gay. Some other comments pointed out that Ali should have known if John was talking to the girls about this, and it has crossed my mind several times that maybe she did know about it, but maybe not the extent of what John had said to me. As of tonight, it's still been silence from Ali. Never texted my mom back. I think I will reach out soon just to check in, but the quiet is almost worse. OP is not an AH. Rather, he took a stand for his emotional and mental well-being. It's his right to prioritize himself and his mental health. His brother-in-law is an AH for making awful comments about OP. As for scores, I would rate OP's BIL 2 and OP 0 out of 5. Let's now move on to the next story from Vegetable-Mobile 4875. Am I abusive or is my boyfriend? Both? Neither? Help. I am 21 and my boyfriend is 23. We've been dating for about 3 years. I'm not going to lie, our relationship has been rocky. We both come from toxic and abusive households, childhoods, but his was much worse. I know he's a great person, at least I think so, but I go back and forth constantly. At times, I feel he treats me terribly, and other times I feel like I'm the problem. Or maybe I'm too harsh on him or overthink situations. Whenever something happens and we argue, I feel like breaking up with him, but then I remember the amazing things he has done for me. He is somebody who has gone above and beyond for me. Comes to every single event to support me, has driven hundreds of hours to see me since we are long distance, spent his very last penny on me when he was struggling financially, hand makes crafts for me, buys me flowers and gifts, writes me notes almost on a daily basis, very loyal to me, goes all out for holidays and my birthdays, stops on the side of the road to pick me flowers, etc. I think you get the point that this man has been very selfless and done so many things that show how much he loves me. And everyone always says how amazing he is. He is usually a pretty easygoing guy until I bring up an issue or I have a problem with something he does. I think he is slightly insecure. He gets jealous over me and sometimes overprotective, and tends to place blame on me if I bring something up and manipulates the situation. He can be very mean when he's mad, but so can I, so how can I blame him? Other times I feel as though I just react to the disrespect he's shown me. He has done and said some pretty terrible things, but we ultimately work them out and both want to grow for each other because we see past each other's flaws, are still young, have the same goals and morals, and know that a lot of these issues are from childhood trauma and don't make us bad people. He also has done such amazing things for me that when terrible fights happen, I'm like, well, am I actually the problem? There's no way this man can do such special things for me while being abusive. With that being said, I can never tell if I'm an issue in this relationship or if I am blind to abusive behaviors. I have never acted out in previous relationships like I do in this one, so it makes me think maybe I'm actually not the problem. Or maybe I love him so much and that's why these fights happen because I am emotionally attached to him. I don't know. Let's get into a few situations that I cannot tell if it's me or him in the wrong. This was a few weeks ago. We were at my university and he was staying with me for a few days. I was helping him prepare for an interview because he was very nervous about it, and we always do practice interviews with each other. I wanted him to do well, so I was just giving him my honest advice. My boyfriend tends to talk with at the end of his sentences, almost like he's always asking a question. I personally think this is cute, and I love the way he talks. But I just told him try to sound confident and straightforward during the interview. Well, I started kind of laughing over this, and I could 100% see why it may have seemed I was making fun of him, but I truly was not trying to do that. If he would have stopped me and told me I was hurting his feelings, I would have apologized and told him I didn't mean to do that. Well, instead he got up, threw the blanket on my face, I was laying on the bed, then threw a pillow at my face pretty hard. He then started putting his shoes on, saying, "You piece of shit," over and over. I was just quiet. He then left and went to do his virtual interview in another room. When he came back, he started talking about the interview like nothing happened. I was quiet, but responded to what he was saying. I then told him we should leave. I had to drive him back to his car in another city because it was getting fixed, and the plan was for him to go home afterwards. I got up to go to the bathroom, but he was kind of blocking the door, so I said, "Excuse me." He then shoulders checked me and said, "What the f*** is your problem?" After he said this, I was furious and shoved him back. Hard. I know two wrongs don't make a right, but I felt bullied in that moment. I felt like I reacted to his behavior in a very mature way at first and didn't retaliate at all, but when he did this, I lost my shit. I then went to the bathroom and came back and we left. In the car he was mad, being very mean, saying I was abusive for putting my hands on him, that I needed to talk to him, on and on, until we got to his car, and I left without saying anything. He ultimately apologized for this, and we worked it out the week after. This was physical enough for me to consider leaving him, and I almost did, but I can't help but think about all of his amazing qualities, and forgive him. But then, on to what happened tonight. We were watching a movie at his house, and I saw a TikTok about the ring girls during the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight. I wasn't even going to say anything to him, but then I saw a comment saying, "About to ask my boyfriend about this," and my intrusive thoughts got the best of me. I know it's immature and dumb, I know. I asked him, "Did you see the ring girls in the fight last night?" I was honestly joking, and it was not that serious. He kept saying, "No, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't even know girls were doing that." But he does a weird smile and face when lies, and I knew 100% he was lying. I know the whole thing is stupid, but why lie to me? I know he saw them. Just say that you did. He has a past of lying to me, and I will say that lying triggers me and makes me incredibly mad, and he knows this. We've had hundreds of conversations about it. I don't trust him completely because of lies that he has told and gaslit me about. They were never crazy terrible lies like cheating or anything, but still, lying and gaslighting is wrong no matter what. Like I said, this really wasn't a big deal. I was kind of upset that he lied to me, but then I shrugged it off. I then got on my phone and was on TikTok. He leaned over and kept saying, scroll up, and I kept saying no. It was the Ring Girls video LMAO, but he kept trying to take my phone and kind of had his hands in my face. This all happened so fast, but he kept trying to grab my phone, and I used my shoulder to kind of shove him away. Nothing hard or purposely to hurt him at all. Maybe it did? I don't know, it all happened so fast, and if I did, I didn't mean to. He then grabbed my wrist extremely hard and threw my hand over. It hurt very bad and left red marks on my wrist. Afterwards, it hurt to move it. I got up to leave and then went home. He kept blowing up my phone, saying that I need to stop acting like the victim, that I punched him in the face first, saying how everything I did was wrong basically, and that he has red marks on his neck, and sent me a picture. First of all, I never punched this man. The red marks on his neck seriously just looked like his normal skin. I shoved him away from me. Maybe I did f*** up and hurt him, but I really don't think I did. I sent him photos of my wrist that clearly show red marks and a bruise, and he kept blaming me and saying that I need to stop playing victim. I genuinely don't know what to do. Maybe I am in the wrong, I don't know. Maybe he's abusive and I'm blind to it. Maybe I did put my hands on him first. Another situation happened last year that, looking back, I should have left over, but I still can't decide if I'm the problem or if he is. Like I said, this was over a year ago, and we ended up working it out, I guess. Even though he never took accountability for this night and still says to this day that it was my fault. Me, my friends, and my boyfriend were all at a bar and were walking out to leave. One of my guy friends from school stopped me to say hi and gave me a side hug. A literal side hug guy. My boyfriend sees it, comes up to me and pulls my arm for me to leave, and then we do. He's being extremely shitty towards me, walking way ahead of me, not speaking to me at all. My friends wanted to go get food, and my boyfriend still wasn't speaking to me. So I decided to go with my friends, and he stayed at my dorm. He blocked me on social media and turned off his location, texted me that he's going home and that we're done, etc. I finally get back to my dorm, and he's on the couch pretending to sleep. I try calling his name to get his attention, and he won't answer me. Finally, I try shaking him awake, and he still won't budge. I was getting mad at this point over the way he was disrespecting me and treating me. This was a year ago, so I'm trying to remember full details. I believe he woke up and kept calling me a cheater over and over. I was so upset, and I think I took his phone laying by him and kind of dropped it on him. This sounds kind of insane, and I can't remember fully what I did, but I know it was wrong. He finally got up and was so mad and pushed me back hard. After this, I slapped him in his face. I know it wasn't right, and violence is never the answer, but him pushing me infuriated me. His nose started bleeding, which I didn't know until later, because he then grabbed my whole body, lifted me up sideways, and threw me down on my couch as hard as he could. The couch is not cushioned at the top, and it hurt bad. He literally threw me as hard as he could. I went into my room and was crying and shaking and stood in one spot for literally an hour. I literally just stood staring at the wall because I was so shocked and shaking so bad. He kept trying to get into my locked room, was trying to pick it, banging on it, calling me a cheater multiple times. He was on the phone with his sibling saying I punched him, that I was keeping all his stuff from him and locking him out, when I had already left his keys and everything. He could need outside my door and told him to leave probably 50 times. But he wouldn't listen and kept trying to get in. He finally got into my room because the lock isn't great, called me a bitch again, and tried taking my phone to get me to stop recording multiple times. Long story short, this was a huge fight that involved violence, name-calling, and kept us both up until probably 5 a.m. I cried the whole night, and his sibling was blowing up my phone, saying how terrible I was for locking him out and stealing his stuff. I was just so exhausted and hurt. I couldn't tell if I was the one in the wrong, because I did slap him and kind of throw his phone. He made me feel at fault for everything this night, and we got over it, I guess. He never owned up to anything. I didn't really want to include this story because it was so terrible, and I feel doesn't show us for who we are. Nothing this bad has happened since then, and we were both drunk, so I wrote it off as a one-time terrible fight that would never happen again. I know everyone reading thinks this is awful, but can you imagine somebody doing so many amazing things for you and then things like this happening? It's hard to know what to do. Physical things have never actually been my reason for wanting to leave him, because they've never really been a concern for me. He is usually the most amazing man I've ever met, but sometimes he flips a switch. These were the 3 instances that got physical, but all the other fights were about him not respecting me, lying to me, not caring about how I feel, or manipulating situations. Which honestly hurt me worse than any of these other fights did. I just don't know what to do because I feel as though maybe I'm the problem. I wonder if I fix myself and start being sweeter, nicer, IDK. Maybe this relationship will get better. I know we're young and I know these fights do not define who we are as people, but they are pretty bad. 90% of the time he is a genuine, loving, and nurturing person who makes me feel special and loved. I don't know. I feel like nobody understands me and they will just read this and think this relationship is awful. Maybe I'm dumb and can't see things for how they are. I'm so hurt right now. Thank you for reading. Honestly speaking, neither OP nor OP's boyfriend is an AH. Rather, it is their toxic background that is the main hurdle in their relationship. I think if they communicate in a constructive way, things could get better. Otherwise, separating is the best option. Let's now jump on to the next story from throwaway question 448. AITA. For wanting to break up with my boyfriend because of his twin sister. I 17F and my boyfriend 17M and his twin sister. So, almost a year ago, I started dating my current boyfriend. He isn't from my school, and his house is about 20 minutes car drive away from where I live. We meet at a tennis club that we both go to, and I liked him almost instantly when he joined for about 2 months before I finally gathered the guts to introduce and chat him up, which resulted in us dating. Everything about this would be a great story if it wasn't for one thing, and that is his twin sister, who hates me for literally no reason. But when I say hates me, I don't mean the usual 16 then and 17 now years old girl who tisks or rolls her eyes or talks shit about you behind your back. I'm talking burning, pure hatred, and it's starting to get to me. So here's the thing. I'm worried about this because I love my boyfriend so much, and I'm worried that this might grow into a very long-term thing, possibly marriage, which would tie me to her fully. I come from a bit of an abusive household. My father and my mother hated each other, but they were one of those Christian couples that were taught death before divorce. It took until I was 12 when my mom finally said to herself that maybe she will rather be happy than married. But until then, it was arguing, screaming, fights, and sometimes domestic abuse on an almost daily basis. Hatred inside family is horrible, and I never want to experience this again. And here it is, all over again. So finally, let's get into some specifics because I'm stretching this out. So about 3 months into our dating, it turned from the casual long calls and some meetups like once or twice a week, due to distance, to a lot more common meet. Until then, I actually never went to his house or met his twin sister, who looks so much like him, it creeps me out. But I was excited. I thought, yay, we can be friends. The second I met her, she looked at me with a gaze of such hatred and disgust, I could feel it like a punch into my stomach. We shook hands, and she had the most fake, poisonous snake smile. I tried to be nice to her, and she would barely even respond to me, but wouldn't stop staring at me with that hatred for a second. From that moment on, it was just that. Whenever I was forced to meet her, that death stare was there, but she would just plainly ignore me trying to talk to her. Like 2 weeks after that, my parents were gone from the house, so I invited my BF for a night stay. We did it before, but it would be the first time he stayed the night at my place, and I wanted to make it real romantic and stuff. Before he even arrived, I got a phone call from his sister asking me if I told him to come over there. I said yes, and she told me he canceled their movie night to go there. She called me a disgusting whore and that she wishes someone broke into the house and raped me to death. Just horrible, vile stuff. She was basically screaming at the top of her lungs. Not half an hour after my boyfriend got there, his sister calls him, all panicked, saying a creepy man is outside their house and is trying to get in, and mom and dad are asleep, and she is scared. So obviously, him being a nice guy, he jumps on his bike and drives back home. After a bit, he calls me and apologizes, says he didn't see anyone, but says his sister is crying and begs him to stay because she doesn't feel safe. I knew instantly this is bullshit. From that point, this would become a regular thing. She would try to disturb, intrude, or stop any date or instance that we set up with whatever means she can without it being obvious to him. And God, the phone calls. The daily one. 3 phone calls of her screaming the most insane insults I have ever heard and wishing me a brutal and painful death for stealing her brother away from her. I thought maybe over time this stops, but as I said, we have been dating for more than a year now. It's been a year of this, just nonstop this, and I can't handle it anymore. The endless avalanche of hatred. And whenever I'm forced to meet her, she puts on that exact same, "I wish you were dead" smile, and stares at me with that death stare without barely winking, and I just know she would dance in joy if a truck suddenly hit me and killed me, and probably go piss on my grave. I love my boyfriend, he is sweet and kind, and I seriously think that this could turn into a very serious and loving relationship, possibly even a marriage one. And it terrifies me. It terrifies me that if this keeps going, it will just be years and years of this hatred. Or more, the thing is, I'm also just terrified in general. The things she says, the insane, unhinged things she says, they are truly terrifying. And sometimes I really feel like she is one snap or weak moment away from just doing some of them and genuinely hurting me. I know their dad has a hunting rifle and taught them both how to shoot at least basics, and she many times told me that she has a bullet with my name on it, ready to go in her screaming rants. So I came to a point where I just can't handle it anymore, and I'm genuinely thinking about just breaking up with my boyfriend. I don't even know what I would tell him as the reason, because there genuinely isn't one. He is such a good guy and does nothing wrong. And I feel like such a bitch for even thinking about it, because he doesn't deserve that. But I don't deserve this maniac abuse either. Do you guys think I'm a bitch for wanting to break up with him just to be free of her? What would you do in this situation? Edit 1. Thank you all for your comments. I'm going to resume trying to sleep. I know the solution to this problem seems like a simple and obvious one, but I have reasons why it's difficult for me. More than one. All in all, I will try to gather the courage to stand up for myself after doing what the person from UK told me, and recording some of the unhinged lunatic calls she blessed me with almost daily. I just hope I can do it in a way that does as little damage as possible to everyone and everything. I have always been bad at confronting stuff, much more of a quiet girl who backs out of situations rather than face the beasts, so I basically have to do something that goes straight against my nature. Still, thanks everyone for the sympathy and suggestions. OP is not an AH for prioritizing her well-being. Her decision to break up with her boyfriend is completely justified. Thought her boyfriend is not at fault. His sister's actions left OP with no other choice. As for scores, I would rate OP's boyfriend sister 2 out of 5, and OP gets a 0. Let's now jump onto the next story from Plain-Aardvark 794. My boyfriend talks during movies and is very clingy. My boyfriend, 32M, and I, 29F, started to date about 2 years ago, and things are pretty serious between us. As in, we are making future long-term plans together. We spend lots of time together. Right now, we live separately. He has a hybrid job where he basically only spends about 5-6 hours in his home office and works from home for the rest of the 30+ hours. I'm a full-time student, and I work a part-time job. My degree is very demanding, and his job is easy in the sense that he can practically go anywhere at any time when he has a slot available or when he's not needed for a project. This sounds an amazing dynamic, except he's become very clingy, and he's been clingy from the get-go, but it's getting worse. Aside from the clinginess, I've never had this kind of attention before in a relationship, and before I love it so much. He's so considerate and thought and treats me like an absolute princess, like a legit princess. I pay for nothing, and I have never touched a door handle when I'm with him. I reciprocate the consideration by doing the same for him, but in a different way, which is tending to his emotional needs while not acting like a therapist. By letting him vent about all the things from his past, he kept bottled inside, as well as cooking and organizing his space. He wants to be heard, and I want to hear him and be there for him. We are practically the same person. We just like doing things for each other. It's clear to each other and everyone around us that we have very strong feelings for each other. We have an awesome dynamic, and we communicate about all issues except for these 2 things. He can't be quiet during movies, and he almost expects, and strongly desires, to spend every other day and entire weekends together. I have a massive issue with this because I love watching movies. I have watched hundreds, and I love looking for details, and it's a time of peace and quiet, because I live in a noisy world, so therefore it's my escape. And he knows how important this is to me, as I have expressed it several times. He also loves movies like I do. It's common for us to pause the movie like 2-5 times and would talk for like 5-10 minutes, and or he would get up and go do something. Not like get a snack or drink, which is very understandable, but would go do a small activity like finding something or shuffle something around. At the beginning, it was tolerable, because we were so excited to be around each other, but now it's not. I even tried to come up with a solution of typing out comments and questions during the movie and waiting until the end to talk, and that's not working out. I have been so patient during all of this, and so patient where I just hold my tongue or sugarcoat it, aside from like 2 times where I was blunt. I'm still excited to be around him, just not the part where he talks during movies. The second part of this is that we spend so much time together that it's affecting me mentally in terms of being able to remain focused on school and on myself. I have had massive issues over the years with building focus and discipline, and now I'm finally in a good place. He wants to spend all day and all night together, 24/7 if he could. Like I feel almost bad saying that I need a day off. I feeling saying that is like saying a day off from working. I love being by myself at times because I'm learning myself, and I'm trying to better myself as a human by building healthier habits and improving my mindset. I'm beginning to feel like this relationship is holding me back in a way, and I really hate that idea because I like him so much, and I can't see life without him. I'm also terrified of hurting his feelings and consequently pushing him away because these 2 things are very touchy subjects. I've brought them up multiple times, but I don't think I'm communicating it correctly, and I don't think he's taking me very serious in the sense that my time is valuable, and I need to build structure for myself with the time I have after school and after work. I firmly believe that he respects me and my thoughts, but I just think there might be a bit of selfishness, I'm not sure what other word I should use, coming from him. I just need space because I feel like my life is just now starting, and I want to become the best version of myself but I feel like it's being hindered. I feel awful and spineless for wanting to tell him, hey, I don't really want to watch movies with you anymore because you won't stop talking. And we have to find a solution for the amount of time we spend together because I feel like I'm not progressing in the areas I want to. I think I'm spineless because I'm afraid to tell him these things and that I'll suppress his personality and he won't be the same. I'll never find someone like him because he's awesome and I'm scared of being alone without him. He's my best friend and I genuinely mean that. My life would not be the same. AITA for wanting to say those things to him? AITA for wanting to not talk during movies? AITA for wanting to only see each for a few hours every other week and wanting to put space between us? I'm just scared of hurting him, but I don't want to walk on eggshells. I'm so stressed out about this and I feel stuck. Please, please help me. OP is not an AH for wanting to set boundaries and prioritize her career and growth over her boyfriend's clingy demands. OP should clearly communicate what she wants because communication is a key in a relationship. OP's boyfriend is a little bit an AH for his behavior, so I would rate him 0.5 out of 5, and OP gets a 0. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.